Akasha could see the winds in the astral. They were violet currents with clouds of indigo that heralded a change that seeped through invisible gaps in the walls of the cathedral. Turbulence circled her as she spun, and she commanded the winds to come to her, to occupy her, to possess her. She felt exhilarated, and step by step she became the eye of the hurricane. Quiet and still inside herself, while all around her was incredible, tremulous motion. The essence of the storm enshrouded her with dark wings. She felt every sinew straining at the leash. The elemental powers were tearing her asunder. Her mouth opened wide and she yelled long and high. Crystal in the cathedral rotunda smashed into 1,000 fragments, each one a lost dream of a lost people. From outside came a roar, as if the foundations of the earth shook. Every nerve in her body was shredded. Her mind raced. She fought to keep pace with the brutal storm entity as it ripped at her sinews, stretching them beyond breaking point. Her temples thumped like a beating drum. The wind's majestic power inflated her lungs. And she danced, and the winds danced with her, and she saw startling images flash before her mind's eye. It was a dream vision of what would be and of what was to come. Her astral insignia, the cobra, reared up out of her soul. Floating above her physical body, she looked down on her dance and the winds and on the dance of the winds. Above the cathedral she flew, high above Samlios, over the aisle, and into the very midst of the sky waters circulating above. Faster and faster the waters streamed above the earth. Tides flowed in the air. Currents of water moved in and out of the ebb. A vortex appeared in the midst of the waters. Through the watery gap, a light flickered in the distance, growing nearer and stronger. Akasha saw that the light was a white angel who carried a silver trumpet in one hand and a blank scroll in the other. The seraph shone with intense luminescence, wings as translucent as a dragonfly's. Shafts of light emanating from the angel bathed the surrounding waters in diaphanous turquoises and greens. In her dream vision, a group of humans mingled in peace with hybrids. Marooned on a rocky outcrop, they cried out to the seraph for deliverance. The angel blew on a silver trumpet, sending out a clear crystal note that reverberated throughout the starry domains of the firmament. The rains began a drizzle at first. Drops of water fell and grew into a stream. The waters in the sky knelt on the ground and soaked the caverns and the deeper recesses. The ground sucked the waters from the sky. The waves washed through the empty hollows and the dry wells, filled the valleys until the tides breached the hillsides and the lower mountains and reached above the tree line. The waters rose to the tips of the highest mountains where the humans and hybrids huddled together in fear. The waters lapped at their feet and an ocean spread out before them where once there were clouds and the void. A searing bolt of lightning smashed into the huddle of humans and hybrids. When the clouds of dust cleared, the smell of death was everywhere. Even the mountain peak was flat. In her dream vision, everything went black. Akasha crumpled to the ground. When she awoke, Shamira, her mentor, was cradling her in her arms. Bleary-eyed, Akasha looked around the rotunda at the scene of rich celebration. The people hugged each other. Others plunged to the floor and raised a prayer to the source. "What happened?" Akasha murmured. "The winds have stopped," Shamira said. A loud crack broke the sense of exultation. For a moment, Akasha feared the cathedral was breaking up. Some of the women screamed until Callisto cried out, "Look!" The men had successfully opened the entrance doors. and let the familiar green half-light of the day stream into the cathedral. Fresh, still air filled the Akasha's lungs. All around them was an eerie silence, while inside her, a high timbre rang in her ears. Her body ached from exhaustion, thirst and fear. Akasha saved us all from certain death. We're delivered. Everyone knelt to pray. Elation and relief lifted the anxiety from their faces. Propped up by Shamira on one side and Thera, her mother, on the other, Akasha hobbled out of the entrance of the cathedral. Joss asked, "Who is Akasha?" to have becalmed the winds. She wanted desperately to reply. The winds had shown her, the dance had instructed her. I am the apprentice, basilisk that slays, and Shamira is my mentor, she said weakly. Shamira smiled with eyes strong and warm. What do you remember of the dance? She asked. I remember spinning and turning. In an instant she connected to the elemental power of the dance, lost her balance and stumbled. Shamira supported her. The astral light filled me with his supreme power, one I've never felt before, Akasha explained, her voice quivering with emotion. The 5 hills of Samios looked like the dales of the underworld, bare trees snapped in two, some with just a stump, the rest of the trees stripped and torn asunder. The survivors were bent over with branches flattened, frozen in the act of bowing to the very thing that tore them apart. Out beyond the harbour of Samlius was the ocean, smooth and benign. The winds were inside me, she said, tearing at every fibre of my being. I was terrified. I thought the winds were going to tear me apart. Then a voice whispered in my soul, "Be quiet, be still." So I was, and the winds obeyed my command. They were quiet too. It was sublime. These are divine entities, Shamira claimed. There's more. I had a dream vision of what is to follow these winds. What did you see? I saw the fall of the sky waters. There is to be a flood. As she spoke these words, the veil between Akasha and her destiny fell away, and she could see her own future more clearly. The first stirrings of her great quest rose in her, and she found the words to clothe their passion. She was to preserve the human race. She was to resolve the tragedy of the hybrid seed, and she was to free the surge.